All right. Well, I think we should go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Hook Talent EDU. My name is Summer Salazar, and I serve as the Director of Employer Engagement at Texas Career Engagement, also known as TCE. So you'll hear us mentioning TCE a lot. But we're so excited for you to join today. We launched Hook Talent EDU this summer, focused on developing an employer program development program or an employer development program to help employers maximize their recruiting strategies at UT. And so we're really excited about today's session, diversity recruitment, how to demonstrate an authentic commitment with Maximus and USAA today. We're excited for them to contribute and share some of the best practices that they engage in. Before we get started, I'd like to just give an overview of Texas Career Engagement and who we are. So we originated in 2018 based on a task force, the outcomes of a task force, the findings, that was made up of faculty, staff, and students who were taking a look at what was happening at the university, particularly in the career space. And the outcome was TCE. So they found that some students had access to more resources than others. And so we're really focused on equitable access and helping students and employers provide resources or have access to resources and opportunities. There are 15 career centers, college and school career centers at the institution, and we work in tandem with them also to help our students find these opportunities. So we're really excited to have this conversation today. And so I will hand it over to our Assistant Director, Megan Fortson, and she will get us kicked off.
Thank you, Summer. All right. So first, we really just wanted to share some information. These are tips that we share in our conversations with employers when they tell us that they want to recruit diverse talent. And so first, we always recommend, early ID is so important. Really invest in those underclassmen, share advice, share industry insight, help them navigate their career search and learn more about your company, different functions. Sometimes when you're a freshman or sophomore, you just know what you've heard, what your parents have done, what your friends' parents have done. And there's so many different opportunities out there. So being that resource just really helps those students, and it helps build that trust, and also for their parents that are part of the decisions when they're making, their final decision on an offer. Also, recruiting skills versus major. This is really important. Sometimes we see employers say, I just want finance majors. And you're like, well, hey, economic students, they're over in liberal arts. They've got these finance skills. Or we have these business minors, or students are savvy and they're getting these trainings on their own too. So just really expanding your search and tapping into the talent across the full campus. And that'll really help you diversify your candidate pool as well. Um, Also, authentic representation. So just making sure when you choose those recruiters that come on campus, they're approachable, they're relatable, they're diverse. Students can see themselves through that recruiter. Also, they're very enthusiastic in helping students, because that really comes across, and they'll really be able to create those connections and impressions with students that, when they're making that final choice, it might come down to that recruiter that really made an impact on them. Also, meaningful and consistent engagement. This is huge. Sometimes we see employer partners investing sponsorships in diversity programs and student orgs, but then perhaps maybe not coming to the events, or kind of not being consistent in their participation with the programs. And we see the most successful employers are the ones that, sometimes they get a champion. They say, hey, we're going to have this one recruiter who's very devoted to recruiting women, for instance, and we'll have them be the champion of this program, and they can really ensure we take advantage of being involved. So even if they can't go to an event, they find another person to go to the event that's equally passionate, and they keep an eye on that relationship to make sure they shepherd it and keep it consistent, and really get the most benefit out of that. Also, showcasing your commitment and being transparent. So this is something, when we talk with employers and you're saying, hey, we want diversity recruits, we like to learn about what you're doing. How are you showing this commitment in your recruiting practices in the workplace? hiring metrics, benefits, resources, how are you supporting diverse staff at your company? And then we say, let's make sure you spotlight this. If you're only posting a job, how can you spotlight this in your job posting? If you're going to events and you have promotional materials, how do you make sure you include that information? And we just remind you not to wait till the offer to spotlight this, but to actually share this with students earlier so they know that you're a company that really values diversity, and you can show your commitment through what you're doing. And so that's some basic advice that we give when we have these diversity conversations. We also want to share with you, recently we did a panel focused on companies where we had reps share how their company really empowered them to bring their authentic self to work. And so with that panel, we asked students, what's important to you when it comes to diversity and inclusion in the workplace? And what questions do you have for our panel? And this is just a snapshot of some of the questions we had submitted. But you can see students were interested in, is there diversity and inclusion training for employees? And if so, what's the extent of that training? How do you prioritize people who are differently abled in the workplace? And what I really loved is that students are not only thinking about themselves, they're thinking about each other. How can someone as an employee support representation on behalf of their coworkers? And that was just so cool. And I wanted y'all to see what was in the mind of the students, and what they were thinking. I was just really, really excited about that. And so then now we're going to have our employer partners share some information. And first, we're going to have Becky, and Becky is from Maximus, Becky Soto. She's a senior recruiter and focuses on individuals with disabilities and veterans. After Becky shares her best practices, she'll pass the mic over to Kelsey Scher, and she's a university relations recruiter with USAA. And she actually recently led an internship program focused on first generation. So we're so excited to have Becky and Kelsey here to share their best practices as your peer recruiters. So thank you, Becky.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So hello, everyone. My name is Becky Soto. I am, as Megan said, the senior recruiter for individuals with disabilities and veterans with Maximus. Maximus has been around since 1975, and we are a federal contractor that manages health and human services for federal, state, and local governments. That's just to give you a synopsis of what we do. So in the process of serving our community, because our motto is helping government serve the people. In the process of serving our community, it's really important for us to be diverse. We have to be reflective of those people that we serve. We want to be able to have our customers see themselves, much like we want to have the individuals, our students, see themselves reflected within our staff. So one of the things that's really important to Maximus is, as we recruit, is that we be open and transparent to the students as we go out to hold virtual. At this time, we're participating in a lot of virtual career fairs. So one of the things is we ensure that our recruiters are reflective of the population. So we make sure that our recruiters are diverse, that they can relate to the population that we're working with at that time. It's also important, I think, to be representative of all generations, not just assume that every student is going to be young. We have a lot of students that return to school at an older age. So we need to be able to ensure that our recruiters reflect all populations, all minorities, all types of representation. So we ensure that as we send recruiters out, that we identify who would be the best recruiter to work this particular group. And it's also based on the types of jobs that we have available at that time. So if we're looking for systems analysts, or we're looking for financial data specialists, or trainers, or managers, we want to make sure that we put recruiters out there who can explain, not just recruit, but explain what the job is, explain the responsibilities, explain whatever the student might be interested in knowing about those jobs, because it's not only important for us as an organization to recruit the right folks, it's important for the students to find themselves within that organization. The students, especially nowadays, I believe, are very interested and open in being diverse. They ask a lot of good questions about diversity. And so it's really important for them to find a home within the organization. And so we want to be able to make those students that are seeking employment opportunities to find themselves within Maximus and know more about Maximus. So it's not just a matter of, here's a job, come and work for us. We need to be able to answer the questions. We need to be able to make that student comfortable in learning about what we do. Also, I think once we go beyond the recruiting part of it and we actually do hiring, one of the things that we do within Maximus that is really important is we train our staff on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I go around, and right now we're doing it virtually, but I train all the managers and hiring staff and recruiting staff on inclusion and diversity. We talk about unconscious bias and how to ensure that whatever the unconscious bias that you might have, because we all have them, we all have biases. Our responsibility is to recognize what they are, to own them, and then to ensure that we don't use that as a barrier to hire good, diverse talent. So it's really important internally for us to educate our staff so that we ensure fairness and equality for everyone. Another thing that we do within Maximus is we do have a lot of internship opportunities, and within those internships, we do very much the same thing. We provide our interns with a very intensive 2 to 3 day welcome that gives them an overview of Maximus and who we are, and they meet all of the administration. They meet with the president of Maximus. They talk about their goals. They're asked a lot of questions about what are your interests, what are your desires as you move through your path of career. And we talk about how Maximus can be a career for them outside of, it's not just a job. We value our employees, and we want to make sure that our interns feel that sense of pride in just coming in to intern with us. Many of our interns turn into permanent employees. We have a really good placement rate with our interns. I think they find a home within Maximus. It's reflective of their values, and you know, we just are really excited about that process. How am I on time? Because I know I'm kind of wordy. We're okay? All right. So Maximus, actually, I will tell you how impressed I am with Maximus. When I retired from the state of Texas, I worked for Vocational Rehabilitation, which is the agency that works with students or individuals with disabilities seeking employment. Maximus was one of my partners that would come to me and say, hey, Becky, we're looking for employees in this location for this position. Do you have anybody that you think might be a good job match? And I think that's one of the things that's really important, is to match the individual to the job so that everyone is successful. The business gets a dynamite employee and the employee is happy. Maximus was one of the companies, very few companies at that time, 8 years ago, that would actually partner with me. When I retired, they actually approached me and said, we want to be more inclusive. We want to know more about disability. We want to know how to better recruit. So we need somebody who understands rehabilitation and disability. Will you come work for us? And they actually created a position for me so that I could come in within Maximus and do what I do. So that's just a way of showing everyone how committed Maximus was back before it was cool to be, you know, on the diversity bandwagon. I hate to say it that way, but really it's sort of become the cool thing to do, which I think is wonderful because it's important and it's needed, but not everyone looked at that as an opportunity to secure some maybe untapped talent. So they approached me to see, how do we go about hiring more individuals with disabilities? Disability crosses all minorities, crosses all races and religions. Disability impacts all of us. And they wanted to make sure, how are we more inclusive, and how do we make our work site more inclusive for individuals with disabilities and students with disabilities and disabled veterans? How do we do that? And so they brought me in, and we created all types of policies and programs and opportunities all around diversity, because it's important that we be a part of our community. And in order to be a part of our community, as you said, Megan, we have to be reflective of that community. So we're very committed to that. So I think I've talked enough, probably. I want to make sure that I introduce my co-partner in the presentation process. You want to move on to the next slide so I can do a great intro to our
Yes,
USAA.
Yes, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
So Kelsey Scherer is the University Relations Recruiter for USAA, who is an awesome employer. And so I'll turn it over to Kelsey.
Awesome. Thank you, Becky. I appreciate it. So real quick, similar to what Becky did, if you are not familiar with what USAA does, we are a financial services institution, and the mission of our organization is to meet the financial needs of our members. So we are member owned, and the majority of our member population is of the military community. So it's kind of cool that our mission plays into D&I through that military population. So really quickly, I wanted to kind of center my talking points around the slide that Megan shared earlier, because I feel like that hits the nail on the head. So the first one I wanted to call out was early ID. And here at USAA, the reason I'm really excited to be here today is I actually had the opportunity last summer to launch a pilot for a sophomore internship program that targeted first generation students from underrepresented populations. And how this all came about, we were actually at one of the NACE conferences. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with NACE, the National Association of College and Employers. And I actually attended a session on I think it was Fidelity. They had launched a first generation program. And I was sitting there thinking about my day-to-day life as a recruiter and all the recruiting trips I've been on at certain schools. And at the time, we were really trying to establish a relationship with Grambling State University in Louisiana, which is a HBCU, historically Black college and university. And I was thinking how a program like this could really benefit. And to Becky's point earlier, there's so much untapped talent out there, right? So what can we do as an organization to get them through this door and get our hiring managers to kind of see them in a different light, right? And give some of these students a chance that we don't normally, this type of schools we don't normally recruit at. So we fast forward to last July. It actually kind of went hand in hand, right, with all the racial injustice coming to light. And I think Becky said it, how a lot of us see it is kind of jumping on the diversity bandwagon. What's cool about this program we launched is it was well in the works before, and the timing just kind of matched up to make it an unforgettable and meaningful experience. So we actually ended up with, it was a small pilot, right? So we ended up with 5 students. We specifically targeted business sophomores because the purpose of the program was to be a feeder into our Rising Senior program, right? Our summer internship program here at USAA is a feeder into entry-level hiring, right? So it is a conversion program. So the goal was to bring these students in a year before their senior year, expose them to USAA, let them see the different areas we have to offer, right? And kind of teach them how to be an intern and get a sneak peek before they can come back and intern with us full-time and hopefully convert into a full-time role. So we end up with 5 students. We specifically target first generation students at some HBCUs and HSIs. Which HSI is Hispanic Serving Institution, for those not familiar, schools that we already had relationships. So we actually recruited at 2 HBCUs and then an HSI that's right in our backyard here in San Antonio. Ended up with 5 students. They all 4 got offers to return into our standard program. And just with the, like I talked about earlier, the timing of everything, I think employees were more changed by the lives of these 5 interns. One of the things I wanted to talk about one of the points earlier about having meaningful and consistent engagement and showing our commitment. Our CEO has been very transparent, right, in what we're doing to fight these and his stance on it. So we had a lot of what we call get real conversations, where it's executives, it's employees up there sharing their stories virtually right now via the web, since we aren't in office, but having the real tough conversations and having the stories shown that are making people uncomfortable. And for the Accelerate interns to be here and to be able to share their experiences, even with just our internal team and internal employees here, was life-changing for multiple people. So I'm going to kind of try and move on quickly, because Accelerate I could talk about for 5 hours. The program was very, very successful, and we are actually more than doubling it in size going into next summer. So the program will continue. I'm so happy to answer any questions on that in a little bit. So that kind of hits the early ID point. Recruit skills versus major, that is something we have been working towards the last few years here at USAA, especially on the college recruiting team. Not just going to career fairs, right, and recruiting at the certain schools, because we have alum in the building that went to that school and they've been recruiting there for 20 years. Really focusing on recruiting the certain skill set, because you can really kind of expand your funnel, your recruiting funnel, if you are working are not just looking at certain schools. And we do, our team is currently piloting a talent scout. We call it a talent scout. So helping source using the applications like Handshake, right, to find that certain skill set, not necessarily just a certain school. And then authentic representation. So this is a big one. For example, you don't want to be recruiting at the Grace Hopper Conference, which is for women in IT, and send 30 white males to your booth, right? When you're recruiting students, they want to feel comfortable and they want to see themselves at your company. So that is a huge one, I think, for any company, especially one that we try to be very cognizant of. And we make sure that we include people, and we have groups at USAA called diversity business groups, which are very similar to kind of college groups. And they support a lot of different things. So we'll tap in to our diversity business groups when we're attending conferences, career fairs, going to meet students, right? Doing mock interviews. We'll tap into them so we can include everyone and show up diverse. So those students can feel more comfortable and hopefully see a future at our company. And then meaningful and consistent engagement. This is one where we've gotten really better about over the years. I spoke earlier to Grambling State, which is one of the universities we recruit at, one of our HBCUs in our strategy, and really getting in that campus, meeting with the professors, right? Establishing relationships with more than just the students and going to career fairs. I know we've been lucky enough to get in with president of that university and meet with the folks that can really help us get in there and engage the students the way the students want to be engaged. Each school is different, right, and had different approaches. But what we found is getting in the classrooms and getting to know what the professors are teaching and getting to get in front of the students in classrooms versus at a career fair allows for more meaningful conversation. It's really, really cool and humbling to be working at or going to events fall and spring for a few years, and you saw a freshman and they remember you as a senior, right? And they're coming up to USAA. They want to talk to USAA because they know you and they trust you and you've showed up year after year. So the next one I'm going to touch on is commitment and being transparent. USAA is a morals-based company. We are all about our mission, service, honesty, integrity. So we want to talk the talk and walk the walk, right? So one thing I mentioned earlier is our CEO has sent very transparent communication out to us, which means a lot to a lot of the employees, letting us know what's going on. If you read the news and you're in the San Antonio area, 2 weeks ago, USAA announced that we would be committing $50 million to nonprofit organizations over the next 3 years to help improve racial equality. So really excited that we're able to share that as we recruit, right? Because it helps us show that we are trying to do something about it. I also talked earlier about the Get Real conversations. Those have been amazing. I mean, it's horrible what had to bring this to light, but to Becky's point, what's come out of it, that fact that D&I is a hot topic, like we are taking advantage of that and running with it because it's only going to make all of our recruiting efforts and the future of our companies even stronger. And then that's kind of all I have as for what we're doing specifically. So I think I'm going to hand it back off so we can get into some dialogue. And I think Megan, y'all have a few more slides.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Becky and Kelsey, y'all just shared such great information, and I know that's been so useful to your fellow recruiters. So thank you guys for sharing those best practices. And we'll definitely save time for questions for everyone. And so the next slide we'll go to, we found this article, and this was a recently posted article, and we just felt like it was very, well written, had some great advice, and definitely hit on some things that Kelsey and Becky talked about today. So we just wanted to quickly talk about it. And so basically, give every recruiter the tools to recruit equitably. So yes, it's great to have a diversity and inclusion recruiter, but what's even better is to make sure that training goes beyond that one person. So making sure anyone that's involved with the recruiting process, the people at the career fair tables, the interviewers, anyone involved has that training. Making sure hiring managers are part of the solution. So if you're bringing everyone, to the table with diversity recruiting, but then you don't train your hiring managers who are making the final decision, then, you're not going to see that in your metrics at the end. So just making sure they are part of the solution. As Becky talked about, building awareness of unconscious bias, we all have this bias. And so just making sure we're doing the trainings and we're, we are aware of our unconscious bias, and then we put things in place to make sure we are giving everyone a fair chance. Ask for help internally and externally. Just like Maximus hired Becky, they're like, hey, we need help here. We're going to go find someone that knows this and we're going to do it right. And even us in career services, we're always looking for this, NAEs, SOAs, all of our HBU schools, reaching out to our networks and all learning best practices from each other. Reverse engineering our job descriptions to focus on potential over credentials. I thought that was really interesting. They talked about how sometimes, when we have someone move on, we make the job description based off that person. And we're like, oh, we need that person again. All that experience, everything was perfect. But then, if you do that, then you just have a smaller box of finding someone. And if you go back to your original job description, you'll see, oh, that's a person I hired from that job description. And really thinking about the potential and the growth of a person and with that. And then ensure your interview panels represent your organization. So once again, so that the people interviewing can see themselves at your company and really relate to your organization. So we just thought this was a great, recent article just to share with you guys. So now we will move on to questions. So I'm going to make sure that we allow our participants to unmute. And let me just fix that. And so you can either, let's see, so you guys can now unmute yourselves and you can either unmute and ask a question, or you can share a question in the chat. And that can be for Becky or Kelsey or Summer and I. And then also, if you're thinking about your question too, any shares we welcome too. Anything you've done, any programs that you've seen success in, feedback you've heard from employees or students, we'd love to hear it. Oh, and we have a question here.
Anyone in the chat, if you want me to go ahead and take that.
Okay, great. I was trying to click on it. Is it one for you?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you can take it.
So that is a great question. So the program was last June. It was only 4 weeks. And the intention was for all 4 of them to leave with an offer. Since it was a development program for them to come and learn about different areas, right? We were kind of waiting to see how it played out. We had a plan, but we didn't know what business areas would be interested in kind of picking up these interns to return for their rising senior internship. Thankfully, the business areas we had involved to kind of expose the interns to, the business was blown away by the interns. And I had given myself a month post program to kind of find a place and hopefully a returning offer for each intern. And by the last day of the internship, we had all 5 interns placed. And what was cool is that we had originally set out to just go after business majors, right? And kind of place into some of our business roles, like a financial analyst internship or a compliance internship. And we ended up with a few of them actually placed on technical tracks. So one of them is actually coming back as a data analyst intern, right? So if you can only imagine that skill set and where that certain intern is going to be able to go within USAA, hopefully, or even just the skills they'll gain in the 10-week program this upcoming summer. We're just really, really excited. Like I said, this past June was the first year we did it. We'll have a lot better data, hopefully in a few years from now. But so far, it's been very successful.
That's great.
Thanks, Kelsey. We have, let's see, we have a shout out. We have Juanita Baldwin. Juanita, would you like to share your hear from also? And if not, that's okay. So you'll see that she's recognizing the Mickey Leland program.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. That was a wonderful session, and it's right up my alley. Love anything and everything involving internships. I work with the Mickey Leland Environmental Internship Program, and I just wanted to give it a quick shout out because in its 30-year anniversary, we have placed about 2,400 students from all over the nation and even out of the country in paid full-time internships during the summer, including this year, the year of the pandemic. We placed 60 interns primarily in micro internships and virtual. So it worked well. We're learning to adjust and we're geared up. We've got momentum and we're ready to take on whatever 2021 sends our way. But I did want to increase awareness among employers, private industry, so USAA, Maximus, and everyone else. We're able to place these students at no recruiting cost to the private industry or other state agencies, federal, city, and county. We serve as your recruiting agent. So the applications for external sponsors will open up starting January 1st. And my email is juanita.baldwin@tceq.texas.gov, available to answer any questions about this amazing program.
Thank you, Juanita. Let's see. So we had an
Juanita, can you repeat your email again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yes, absolutely. It's JUANITA.Baldwin, BALDWIN, @TCEQ.Texas, spell out Texas.gov. And would love to have an offline phone conversation with any employer representatives who are interested in recruiting. Now get this, these students are primarily first gen. We're really heavy on women and minorities. So if you're looking to expand your diversity talent pool, please check us out.
Thanks, Juanita. And I added your email into the chat also. So we received another question to either Kelsey or Becky. Where do you feel is the best place to start when first developing a diversity and inclusion program?
This is Becky. I think one of the best places to start, if you really haven't created anything yet, is to become a member of organizations that will provide you with the steps and the guidance to create whatever fits your company. For example, being a member of the Disability In, which used to be the USBLN, US Business Leadership Network. That is comprised of businesses that share best practices. And also there are processes and procedures and templates that they share that you can use to develop your own plan for creating a DE&I program. I actually have materials that I can share with you if you'd like, on how to create a DE&I program from scratch. And it's a little template that you can use that will help you with your first steps in how to actually initiate a program. So I'd be happy to share that with you if you'd like.
Becky, you can also send that to Megan and we'll include that
Okay,
in our follow-up.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
And also just, we're going to hear, as Becky and Kelsey are sharing some best practices, but our team will have our email. You'll see Recruit UT at Austin. If there's ever an opportunity where we can help consult on that, on just steps that you can take. These are the strategies. So this is a big strategy session with 40 employers, but we're happy to do this with you individually also. So let's see, Kelsey, how did you go about making those connections to be present in the classrooms at the institutions or colleges?
Yes, so this answer could go multiple ways because depending on the university, right? Here at USAA, we do have a strategic plan and strategic schools we recruit out for our internship program. So some schools are easier to make those connections with than others, right? So I'm going to talk about a school that we kind of struggled with, one of our HBCUs, finding those students because the career services organizations was going through changes, right? So we weren't able to lean on them to help us get into the classroom. So like my first suggestion would be go to career services. They should be able to help contact you or help put you in contact with the right students, or at least with the right professors in the right classrooms. And I know there's some money involved at some schools and all of that. But as far as our Accelerate program where we recruit at, it was just about kind of getting in there and figuring it out and not giving up. So I'd start with career services. And if career services either couldn't help me or it wasn't the direction I was going, right, I would see if we had any other contacts at the school or any alumni. Your alumni at the company are a great way to stay connected, and it's always a favorite professor that they're still in touch with. For this particular program for Accelerate is after about 3 years of showing up at the events, the career fairs that were kind of not very successful for us, right? And we're trying to kind of do other things to get in touch with students besides just showing up at a career fair, right? So going and doing an event on financial literacy and connecting with the students there, and showing up and just walking the halls, even sometimes when I'm doing mock interviews and I see a professor walking by, right, and make those connections. You can also, I've been sometimes where a school, I could not get in touch with anyone, and I would just start Googling the inner program departments. For example, if I'm hiring audit interns and I see an internal audit program, right? You can usually find the email address on a public website and reach out to the person running said program or a certain professor, right? And see if you can get into those classrooms, because that is where I see, especially for the Accelerate program, we actually find that untapped talent, because typically the students that are very engaged with career services, right, they already know what they should be doing and kind of know their next step and know the application process and have a great resume. So I find a lot of the untapped talent in those classrooms, right? Because I'm getting in there, they're not requesting the information, we're kind of giving it to them, and a light bulb goes off. Wait, like I need to get an internship. So multiple ways. My first thing would be to start with career services. If anybody else has anything to add, happy to.
Kelsey, thank you so much for saying start with career services. We definitely, you know, I've been at UT for 10 years in career services, and before Texas Career Engagement, I was with Macomb School of Business, before that with Communication Career Services. So, Texas Career Engagement, we're here to help you navigate UT and streamline your experience. So say you want to get into, a business class, a business professor. So we would say, okay, here's your employer relations contact with business, because they know the faculty that's open to it. I'm like, oh, Bob Duvik in finance. Oh, he loves, when employers share information that's related to curriculum, so things like that. They'll be able to connect you with those professors that are open to it, so you get a response, so that you're not like, oh, no one's emailing me back. So at UT, that's what we recommend. So thank you for pointing them that way to start.
Yeah, career
And our
services.
goal, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Career services is such a critical partnership. We find that within Maximus, career services across the country at all the universities are just so willing to help and are open for ideas. They don't always say, we have the answers. Like, tell us what you need as a business so that we can develop what you need internally. So career services is awesome. We love partnering with career services. I think LinkedIn is also another avenue that people can tap into, because it has a lot of professionals there where you can connect with professors, and you can whittle it down to the population that you're looking for and then reach out. That's another avenue, but I would go through career services first.
And as we mentioned, UT is distributed, so there are 15 college and school career centers at the institution, and so we can help make those connections. We work in tandem with them. We work closely with them with these efforts, and so a lot of our conversations, when an employer wants to connect with a certain major, they can certainly do that, and we can help make that connection. A lot of our conversations are going to lead back, and this is about, how do we build that talent pipeline with diversity, is skills versus majors, because there's going to be a lot of students who maybe are not in that major but are developing that skill set, and that's a big focus for us too.
Absolutely. I think I'm glad that you mentioned that, Summer, because oftentimes I'll tell students, for example, just social work, because I've been working with social workers lately. I tell social workers that just because you're a social work major doesn't mean that it doesn't open opportunities in different fields and different areas. I mean, you would be amazed where you end up. So don't pigeonhole yourself, because there are other opportunities that might pique your interest, that particular major can contribute to. So I think from a business perspective as well, we want to look at the abilities that someone brings to the table, and not necessarily just look at the skill. We want to see the passion. We want to see the interest, the desire. All of that really contributes to the ultimate decision about who is the best fit for a position. I used to, when I worked with students with disabilities and I'd go out to talk to businesses, I'd have businesses tell me, Ms. Soto, I can teach someone to tear apart a motor and put it back together, but I cannot teach them passion. I cannot teach them all the soft skills that they have to come with. And so I think we as a business, sometimes we need to remind ourselves that without that passion and desire and drive, it doesn't matter what your skills are. We can teach a skill if we need to, but we can't teach those key points that need to come with that student.
Thank you. We had another question from Casey. So it says, to the great point, and this is for both Kelsey and Becky, and any other organizations too, to the great point of authentic representation, as you build diversity in your workforce, how do you make sure that the representation for your company looks like the population without overburdening those diverse individuals in your company, if you currently have low diversity in some aspects? So either Kelsey and Becky, if you want to share what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. So this is actually one that I have a really good example of from recently. So we actually attended the ROMBA Reaching Out MBA conference that I helped lead the other week. And it is for the LGBTQI community, for those who aren't familiar. And we actually had a student in there that kind of said something that I hadn't really thought of about how she loves identifying the way she does, but she's kind of being exploited for it. So I love that question because it's kind of dead on, right? Like how do you not take advantage of this group that and overburden them with every recruiting event, every speaking opportunity, but you still want to show up to show the people you're recruiting that there are people like them and it is an inclusive environment, right? So I think someone typed it in and I'm just going to echo it. If you can get folks that were recent hires, right? Like we're hiring interns. So we want folks that are newer in their careers too, not just execs and managers and directors that are that have been seasoned and have been here for a while. That perspective is great. But we also, like our goal is for the student to see themselves at our company. So bringing in prior interns to full-time hires, recent hires that they're more their age, right? You won't always have that diverse representation, right? There's been times where I've been attending an event, right? But can you bring allies? Like, right, we have diversity business groups. So anyone at our company can join anyone or any organization. So can you bring an ally that's at least knowledgeable on the subject or knowledgeable on the community that you're representing or recruiting at? So right. I do second what someone else answered in the chat, but also don't want to exploit the same people over and over.
Absolutely. And within Maximus, we're relatively unknown, but we're really a large organization. We have offices all over the country and we are a global company. So we have an opportunity to not have to tap into the same recruiters all the time. And because we make an effort to be very diverse, we usually have a representation where we can I'm sorry, I'm struggling for the word, swap out people. So we're not always using the same people all the time for recruitment events or activities or whatever. One of the things that Kelsey, what she said, made a light bulb go in my head is that when we go to career fairs or when we participate in virtual career fairs as well, it's really good to bring the alumni back that you've hired from that organization, because they always want to go back and recruit from their schools. And they're really excited about the opportunity to do that. And they're relatively new. They're not, longtime managers, or some of them are, but I mean, I think the fresh, excited student that can come back and recruit at their alma mater is always, you can always cook some really good students that way.
Good, yeah.
And I want to share something real quick before, because I don't want time to run out, because, we're in a very difficult time in our country and we have first responders that are working hard, that are making our lives possible to continue in some type of normalcy. We depend on all these people that are out there doing what they do. But I got a cup the other day, and I want all of you who are in recruitment and in HR to remember this. I don't know if y'all can see it, but it says, you can't spell hero without HR. And it's true, because quite frankly, the recruiters, all the people that, boots on the ground, are the folks that are providing opportunities for other people to find a job, to find their place. And right now it's difficult on everyone. So I want you each to think of yourselves as a hero, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're providing opportunity and hope for students. So congratulations. Here's to you.
I love that, Becky. Thank you. Yeah, I think, that one of the other, to add to that, this great group of heroes, is that also looking back at that, one of the resources that we're sharing is to also give every recruiter the tool to recruit equitably, right? So not if you're continuing to grow that workforce and whatnot, so we were really looking at how do we scratch the surface? How do we help provide those tools for all employers to get started? So this is the first start. This is the first step. If you're looking at how to get that started within your own organization. So great question. One of the other questions is about, let's see, I lost it. On skills versus majors. So expanding candidate pools to seek the skills versus majors. How's the university supporting students to set them up for success as they too expand their job search? So the institution is engaging in so many efforts in this space, and particularly with Texas career engagement. That's a big focus for us. So how do we help students really understand and articulate the career competencies and marketable skills that they're developing while they're in school? And so we have several efforts in place where we're mapping the student experience, curricular, what they're learning in the classroom, how the various engagements and leadership opportunities, so those co-curricular experiences. From the employer engagement standpoint, we just hired a campus talent specialist that we're super excited about. Her name is JC. She's on this call also. But we're really looking at how do we understand the student experience so that we can highlight that with employers and bring them to light. So we know that this has been mentioned during this call, but there's going to be a certain percentage of students that go to career services, that meet with a counselor, that meet with a coach, that participate in interviews. And then there are a lot of other students who maybe just don't know. They're still just trying to navigate the difference between the registrar and financial aid, right? So you're just trying to understand how to navigate the university. And so what we really want to do is understand their experience so we can advocate on behalf of them and highlight their experiences. So so mapping the experience, what are they learning in class? What skills are they developing, and how do we make those connections to the employers too, right? So MACE has the 8 career competencies, that language that they utilize, but not every employer is utilizing that yet. So really a big goal for the employer engagement team is how do we translate those experiences? How do we help you when you come in, an employer says, we want to reach student with business skills. Okay, well, there are more than 100, 200 majors at the institution. What are they learning and how can we bring them to light? So we're really excited about that effort, and that's a big focus for us. So great question. Let's see. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So we have our contact information for you to connect with us if there's anything that we can do to support your efforts. We will continue to share our Hook Talent sessions with you. So if you have any requests for certain topics, we'd be happy to include those. If you have anything that you're doing that you really want to highlight and you think that we can build a session around that, we would love to hear that so we can continue to share the employer perspective. But we're really excited to help you develop your recruiting strategy at UT to make it easier to navigate the 40 acres. A big thank you to Kelsey and Becky for sharing your experiences and the great things that USAA and Maximus are engaging in. You're such great partners, and we really appreciate you. We will be following up. We'll have a quick survey. So if you just will provide, again, your thoughts on this experience today, but then also anything that you want to hear about. We also will have another Hook Talent session in December focused on navigating the recruiting landscape at UT. So we want to help make it easier to reach the talent campus-wide. So thank you again so much for being here. Megan, did you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, so thank you, Becky and Kelsey again. Thank you everyone for attending today and sharing as well. Also, you'll see in our follow-up, we're doing a whole series for employers to spotlight their D&I efforts to our students, a social media initiative. So that'll also be included. So if you're doing something awesome, we would love to highlight it on our social media channels campus-wide, and you'll see that information in the follow-up as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll stay on just for a few minutes, just in case. All right.
Trying to capture the chat questions.
Megan,
Yes.
the cat has been scratching at the door the entire time.
Oh no, she made her appearance. She got through the other doors. She had 3 doors to get through. She's
Yeah, she's at
man,
the door.
that's hilarious. That's too funny. Yeah, I've lost control of clicking on chat, so that was fun. So thank you so much.
Technology, it's our best friend, isn't it?
Well, good. Well, I guess we'll just stop there. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
We'll
I'll
stay in
send
touch.
that template over to you, Megan.
Perfect.
So that you can share it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all.
Kelsey,
Bye.
Becky, thank you
Guys,
so much.
It was nice meeting
Bye.
you, Kelsey.
Bye. Thank y'all. Have a good weekend.
You
And
too.
Summer, you're gonna have to
Wherever
end the
we're
meeting too. Oh, right, I know. Is it almost?
Bye.
It's almost the weekend. And Summer, you'll have to end the meeting too because
Okay.
I've lost control of the sharing.
Bye, guys.
Okay,
See y'all
bye.
Thank you.
some other time.